All right, welcome. And I'm also getting going on the record of what I write on my screen back here. Oh my goodness, it's already April 15th. I'm going to mute the other participants, not because I don't love you, but just so that there won't be an issue with getting feedback, even though that's probably not going to be an issue today. And this is the level 1 aspect of class. This teaching is all about ascension, both personal and planetary. So there are recorded homeworks that are recorded lessons that are associated with this broadcast. I'm laying this out for any class members who aren't on the actual video conference call but who might be tuning in later. There are 3 recorded lessons that are associated with this topic, and they were all recorded during 2012 and the early part of 2013. So it's interesting because that is a particular era, like a particular slice. And although it's not that the information has changed, but our status or where we are in this birthing process has changed. And so some things will be updated, but a lot of the information that is in those homework assignments still stands. And the main concept that we're working with here today is this. I draw this time vortex all the time. And this is a template. You are able to apply this understanding to things that are happening at many levels. See, another person is tuned in. There we go. You're muted. That's excellent. So I don't get feedback. Understanding this shape, you can apply it as a template to your own personal existence, to the understanding of a planetary existence, or even a galactic existence and higher. So it is the understanding that within this vortex or this time cone, and again, if you are students of this class, this is like familiar to you ad nauseum, but if you're tuning in for the first time, I'm going to go over this. This is my sculpture that is a 3-dimensional representation of the chakras. Chakras are actually made of twin tori or multiple toruses, and this is what we have right here. This is one of the donut hole that goes to the top and the bottom, and one of the donut holes goes to the left and the right. And the basic movement of your chakras is one of these is spinning over and over and over like this, and one of these is spinning around and around and around like this. And this causes a stabilizing movement. We could call it a gyro-stabilizing movement. It's similar to a gyroscope, but all of this is happening at the level of hyperspace, or the level of pure energy and consciousness. So we're not talking about something that is spinning within a field of gravity, or on the surface of Earth, or floating out in deep space. We're talking about something that is spinning in hyperspace. And I define hyperspace as the room that contains the room. Again, this is a lot of introduction if you're new to the class, but quite familiar terms for people that have been here for a long time already. So right now you're in a 3-dimensional box. 3-dimensional box, it's the room that you're in. But the question is, what is the room that contains the room? And the answer is hyperspace, because this room at 407 is not the same room that I was occupying at 406. 406 is like a train car that we were in, but that has passed. And we are now in the we just passed 407. We are now in the 408 train car. Where did 407 go? Where is the room that we were just sitting in one plank length ago? And the answer is it's in hyperspace. It's in a higher dimensional state. We hop from train car to train car, utilizing our awareness or our consciousness, and those train cars of reality or moments of reality exist in hyperspace. Those train cars of reality exist at the level of your chakras. Your chakras are made of timelines and probabilities. Probabilities meaning the mathematical likelihood that something will happen. In this diagram that I have drawn back here, I'm pointing with the shadow of my pointer to this central spindle. I also liken this to the shape of a circus tent or a yurt. And so that would be like the tent pole or the yurt pole, this central pole over here. And that I call the path of least likelihood. It is the least likely of these paths because if you were to look at this end on, you understand this is almost like a bullseye, like a target. And there are many, many, many multiple possibilities around here in the periphery. But there is only one possibility, one timeline that goes all the way through and exits this level of reality. And that's why you can see, I'm using my shadow to point up here, or this little pointer right there, you can see up there, or over here for people that are accessing this at home and can see that's a red line, that is a little tiny wormhole. That's a place where the membrane of death does not actually meet, and there's only an aperture that is wide enough for one timeline. Only one timeline exits the time cone. And again, review for people who are in this class for a long time, but important information for people who are new here, the timelines all go to the singularity. The center of this sculpture, where all of these forces converge, is the singularity, and that is where this path of least likelihood goes. There's a question in the chat, just pause, I'm going to get there. The path of least likelihood is the ascension timeline. It is the least likely possibility, and it is an inevitability, because I have also used the concept that this bullseye is very much like an analog record. You know, an old-fashioned record that you put on the record player with a needle that spins around that makes a song. Well, your consciousness is the needle of awareness, and you are, quote-unquote, playing the song of your life on this record. And it's a very, very, very long time spiral. I'm going to draw it back there now in red. So this is a spiral of energy that goes all the way up, and you literally explore every single possible life iteration to its final denouement. This is like until the end of the movie. So let's say you explore the life trajectory where you choose to be a pirate and ride the high seas, you know, stealing treasure off of people's boats. And of course it ends badly and you are killed by cannon fire and fed to alligators. I'm thinking of the most unlikely and outlandish scenario, okay? I'm trying to think of something ridiculous. That would be one of the far outliers over here. You exploring a life on the high seas of piracy, right? It's also far away from the concepts and values of being an ascended master. The topic here today is ascension, and I define ascended mastery as beings, who have exited the wormhole. Beings who have played the song of their life, experiencing every single iteration or possible combination of beliefs and choices until they are in direct alignment with the source. This is our life journey. We are here going through all of these processes of refinement that are life experiences until we end up with the right recipe of characteristics to be able to exit this level or quantum and get to the next level. This is the quantum leap, the leap from this energetic shell of possibilities to the next energetic shell of possibilities. And I have explained in this class how it is not a leap that can be done in fractions or decimals. Like you don't go 1, 1.25, 1.5, 1.75, and then 2, finally 2. It's not like that. Just like in an electron, electrons jump from a lower vibrational state to a higher vibrational state. So I'm drawing an electron over here. That dot in the middle is the nucleus, and this shell that I am drawing in red is a lower vibration electron shell, and the shell that I'm drawing in blue is a higher vibration electron shell. And you jump from red to blue by adding energy, by becoming a higher vibrational object. And you don't go from red to blue by going red, red and a half, red and 3/4, blue. You gain energy in the red state. And when you have enough energy, you then make that leap. It's almost like moving house, like in the physical realm, like you live in a house or an apartment. But theoretically, before you move into your next house or your next apartment, you have to save up money and get your security deposit so then you can get into the next place. This is what your electrons are doing. While they are in a lower vibrational state, they are gathering energy. And when they have enough energy, boom, they make the leap. I bring this up because a lot of the natural world, a lot of the observable world contains allegories or visual analogies what your consciousness is experiencing. It's very valuable to compare your own consciousness trajectory to the actions of forces and particles in the world, because you are on a similar journey. And it just happens to be anthropomorphic because it has a human face, but is still an abstract journey of consciousness. So let me get to the chat. I don't mean to ignore, and I know that there's a flow. Sorry about that. So the question is about streaming. How is the stream? Is anyone else having difficulty with the video freezing? Is anyone else having difficulty with audio or anything like that? Freezing a bit. Okay, I apologize, because that's an unstable internet connection. I've been back and forth with Zoom customer service quite a lot, and it's something that they cannot improve on the system. So bear with me, please understand, and let's keep all of our various limbs crossed that I will not get kicked off the video conference and that I'll be able to continue. Good, limbs are crossed. Okay, so back to the topic of ascension, because this is all about, this really relates to you as an individual and also to the structure of the planet and the galaxy. This is like good stuff, because what is happening on a microcosmic level in your own life is being mirrored literally in the journey of Earth or Gaia. And that's why I have this image over here. This is a detail from Birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and you can see, I'm going to highlight, oops, in better color, I'm going to highlight over here, we've got the two halves of Earth, and Earth is split open, almost the same way that you open an egg to make scrambled eggs in the morning. And you can't see it on your screen, but on the actual painting, there are little tiny dots that are magnetic lines of force that represent Earth's magnetosphere. And out of the middle, where the yolk of the egg would be, is a human anthropomorphic form and the shape of the flying rainbow lasagna. And this painting is meant to represent, non-literally the concept of Earth and Earth's inhabitants currently, up to this point, had a magnetic field that is shaped like this. And Earth and Earth's inhabitants has the potential to make its magnetic field shaped like this. That's a pretty special and important thing, because I've described that turning this into this adds an additional degree of freedom. It adds an additional dimension. And what that means is that you can now seamlessly combine the inside and the outside, or what was held apart by boundaries, what was held apart by the membrane of time and consciousness and many mental programs that were designed to keep Earth's surface humans from fully accessing their higher faculties and connecting to higher vibration consciousness. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna now allows that level of interconnectivity. So in the past, and also let's talk about ascension. So ascension is essentially conscious death. We are redefining death. Death is a focuser of awareness. All right, I'm just moving that aside so you can see the time vortex again. When I say a focuser of awareness, what I'm describing is all of this periphery, all of these lives that are out here. It's not, quote unquote, the true you. It's not who you really are when you are in alignment with Source, or the highest consciousness, or infinity, or whatever name you would like to give to it, even God. All right? When you are exploring these areas out here, you are making decisions that are not in alignment with divinity. And this is part of how we understand a free will world, a free will cosmos, that the world is set up so that you can make choices and then you get feedback on those choices. So you are supposed to be able to dip your toe into reality, make choices, get feedback, and then realign your trajectory and say, how did that go for me? Maybe I should go in a new and or different direction. And I have used the analogy of the movie Groundhog's Day many times in the past, because in that brilliant and very, comedic, funny movie, Bill Murray is forced to relive the same day over and over. It is reincarnation within one corporeal existence, and he has to do that until his consciousness is refined to the point that he can actually leave Groundhog's Day. Yes, we are going through the same cyclical refinement of consciousness, where each one of us as an individual is circulating around within the time spiral of your corporeal life. So right now, I am not even referring to reincarnation and karma. This would be, reincarnation and karma would be the understanding of how energy affects consciousness as it is traveling on its trajectory between corporeal existence. So let's do some definition here. When you do math, you spend a lot of time just defining terms. People often say, what is the soul or the spirit or the thing that goes on after you die? Let's be impeccable with our language. Let's call the part of your consciousness that can exist independent of your physical body and can learn between lives, let's call that your soul, all right? So your soul has a physical, individuated, corporeal existence as someone such as Aurora or Mike or Lucy. And of course, we are refined within that individual existence until you are in direct alignment. And all of our many existences, so like when you are not in the physical body and defining yourself as Aurora or Mike or Lucy, your soul is consciousness that is unclothed and is on its trajectory between corporeal existences, and it certainly learns in that level of reality also. So I'm trying to give a characterization here of reincarnation being the understanding that you are being refined or brought into alignment with divinity over the course of many corporeal lives. And you must understand that within each life, your consciousness is being refined to the point of being in alignment with divinity. So I started off by saying that this shape is like a template, and it contains ideas or concepts that you can then apply or place on top of many different life situations. And this is the idea that you are, as an individual, exploring all of these iterations, possibilities, and probabilities until you are in alignment with divinity. The planetary structure is also exploring her many multiple timelines until she is in alignment with divinity. And at the same time, on a larger nested fractal structure, larger aspects of the cosmos, like the galaxy, is exploring its many iterations until it is in alignment with divinity. So all of this is consciousness being refined. And this membrane here, this is a flowing membrane. So this swooping shape, this curved edge of the vortex there, that is a flowing membrane, like a waterfall. And it flows from the top down, and it is the membrane of death. And it is comprised of all of the last moments of all of the timelines that terminated on that membrane. And that is a focuser of awareness. Because if your awareness is like a flashlight or like the needle on a record, and if that awareness is over here, it's shining over here, it is looking at these life events, perhaps the life events where you chose a life of piracy on the high seas, matey. And that those are not life events that are in alignment with divinity. They are either nonsensical or ridiculous, or they don't weave well into the tapestry of the universe. Because the universe, or let's say the cosmos, the multiplicity of parallels, many timelines and many universes, is harmonically perfect. It is set up in a way that everything fits together perfectly. Like my paintings, the way that everything fits together, there aren't extra things hanging over the edge, everything fits together. That's what harmonics means. It means that there's a musical score of the universe or of the cosmos, and that those musical notes fit together and relate to one another in terms of patterns that make sense and that have a consciousness and an intelligence behind them. So you, exploring this lifetime, this far outlier over here where you're a pirate on the high seas, matey, although it is your right as consciousness to explore that possibility, like you can dream that dream if you want to, but it is not in alignment with the great composer of the cosmos. The composer of the cosmos does not say that your consciousness is supposed to be experiencing a life of piracy on the high seas. And so when you shine your light in that direction, you hit the membrane of death. Ah. Sorry about the getting kicked off in brief interruption. Focuser of awareness. Many things have been said about death. It has been characterized as almost an evil being, like a malicious being that wants to take your life away from you and do something bad to you. And the ego has a lot of fear. The ego fears being unmade. But death is really a focuser of awareness. In the same way that to make this projection work properly, there's a lens. And before class, I focus the lens so that all of the light that is coming out of it converges at the right place. This process of refinement within one lifetime is the process of your awareness being focused so that your light is a coherent beam and can go on to the next level. So the way that your consciousness is focused is through choice and then feedback based on those choices. So the idea is that as you go through life, you make choices, you have a belief system, and your belief system is like the basic structure that your choices emanate from, and the choices are like you using your steering wheel to drive your car, and if you hit the membrane of death, it's like, oh, I drove my car into a brick wall. And it is necessary to circulate back to the beginning. That's what the membrane of death unmakes you. It unravels you like a sweater, like pulling a thread of something that is crocheted, unmakes and unravels the entire skein of yarn, assembles all of that portion of consciousness back at the beginning and begins again and begins spiraling upward again. And we each will experience this as many times as we need to until we are able to maintain our alignment with highest consciousness. And that's how we're actually supposed to live. Death is the aberration. Ascension is the totality or the baseline. This is very different than what has been taught to humans over the past 10 or 20,000 years. Humanity within the past 10 or 20,000 years has been living within a time that is an aberration. What life was like in the time of Atlantis before the fall of human consciousness was very similar to what life would be like in one of these monasteries in Bhutan or the high Himalayas. In that world, people meditate their whole lives, and then sometimes beings who have cultivated their consciousness to the point of being able to exit the wormhole, sit down, meditate, slow their heart rate, slow their breathing, and consciously exit the body. And they do this maintaining their continuity of consciousness. This is the process of ascension. So let's also get into this, and I'll get into the do's and don'ts or how-tos or 1, 2, 3s as we're going through this. There's several different types of ascension. Let's start off with the tops, the A++ way of doing it is total transformation of all of the cellular structure of the physical body totally is transformed into a non-physical substance. It's like saying I have a log of wood. When I apply fire to the log is totally transformed into heat and light and vapor and plasma. And if I do it right, I don't leave any ashes behind. I have completely transformed that substance. That is, total ascension, right? And there are stories of human beings throughout the past 10 or 20,000 years who have experienced that. The story of Jesus Christ rising after his crucifixion is one of those stories. And there are tales from the Far East, specifically the realm of Tibetan Buddhism, where there are stories about devotees achieving their rainbow body. And there are some stories of eyewitnesses from the early 1900s, when that area of the world was still a very undeveloped, non-technological place, and there were still wandering mendicants, you know, like holy people who did not have... Talking about the wandering mendicants of the Far East, and I will get my spotlight video going as soon as this thing stops spinning. You know, in the early 1900s, it was not unusual for people in the Far East to have monks or nuns, rather, there we go, that would travel around and would subsist on the offerings of the people, you know, who they met. And so there's one tale of a wandering nun who asked for shelter in a barn from a farmer, and when the farmer checked on her after a few days, found the nun with her limbs separated from her torso and rainbow light shooting out of the bone sockets. And he closed the door, backed away, didn't want to disturb her, and when he came back after a week, the nun was gone, but all that was left behind was a hank of hair and fingernails. So this story represents partial transformation. The idea that the aspirant or the person who is ascending has partially transformed their physical structure. Their physical cellular body has been raised in its frequency of vibration. Let's talk about frequency. I got my piano all set up over here. I'm going to play some notes. That's one of the lowest notes I can play. That's one of the highest notes I can play. The difference between these two notes is their frequency, how big the wavelength is and how fast it's moving. So when that nun transformed in that, farmhouse, she raised the frequency of almost all of her cells from this octave all the way up to this octave. Except she didn't raise the frequency of her hair and her fingernails. And the book that I read this in was very interesting. It was from a monastery back in Woodstock, and it was all about people that have achieved their rainbow body. And the rationale is that if you simply ascended and left behind no trace, there is no evidence, no artifact left to inspire others. But if you ascend and let's say there's eyewitnesses, or let's say you ascend and you leave behind a relic like your hair or a tooth or your fingernail, that becomes evidence to inspire other people that this can be done. Because this is a mental program. Just like the mental program to be able to eat light, we are taught to eat physical food, and we are taught that you cannot eat pure sunlight. Talking about, before I got so rudely kicked off of here, the nun from the Far East who achieved her rainbow body. And first of all, there was an eyewitness. That eyewitness was able to give reportage and eventually have that story end up in a book that could inspire me, that could then inspire you. Second of all, when you ascend and you leave behind some relic, that is also evidence that can inspire others. There's another example from the Far East of monks who ascended, but their skull was left behind. And pilgrims would come and they would chisel away a little piece of the skull so they could take something home with them. But the next day, miraculously, the skull was healed. There were no chisel marks, nothing was gone. So this is another example of giving evidence to the mind. The rational mind, this hacked, installed human operating system, needs integument. It needs fibers to tie it together into the field of possibilities, because you've been programmed as to what you think is possible. You think it's not possible to eat nothing but pure sunlight. You have to put food in here and swallow it down and poop it out. And you think it's not possible to live forever or to ascend or to achieve another state. After all, everyone that you know has died. Look at all these animals and plants that die. Death is a natural part of the natural world. And this is a big, huge program to get through, all right? I am one speaker here on the planet right now, and there are many speakers that are teaching about ascension. And that this is important because we are in the time where you will not have to die. You have other options. So hold on a moment, brief pause while I save the recording from the background. This is April 15th already. I hope everybody did their taxes, and this is level 1. And save it up. Save it up. Good. And hold on a second while that processes and everything like that. So the next level of ascension would be to die. Oh, sorry. Let me rewind because I'm trying to do too many things at once. Here we are on part 2, working on the concept of ascension and just getting my everything prepared for the background there. All right, so first of all, we need, in order to ascend, we need to just tell you that it is possible. Just like running 26 miles. At one point in human history, it was unimaginable to run 26 miles in a row. Oh my goodness, that can't be done. Surely you will die. The first guy who did it died. But now it is normal. Many people do it many times and they don't die. In the past 10 or 20,000 years, to ascend was considered very rare. And that's because we live in a world where there is no support for the process of ascension. In the distant past, far antiquity, in the times of Atlantis, and even in the times of high culture in ancient Egypt, there were schools, this is called mystery schools, that had initiates, and their entire purpose of the school was to bring people to the point of ascension. So imagine that instead of, 1 hour a day or 2 hours a week, being on a video conference in this class in order to learn about ascension, imagine if it was your whole job from your whole life, from the time you're a little kid, the way in the Far East, the way that, children are trained from a very young age in the monastery. These are what the mystery schools were like. Initiates were taken and put in a special environment where all they had to do was focus on their personal self-cultivation and prepare their consciousness for this transitionary journey. Some people call it a death journey, but it is not the traditional death as it has been defined. So in the time of ancient Atlantis and before, everybody ascended. That was the program. We did not have unconscious death. After the human genetic program was decreased or squashed and made not as good as it was, when human consciousness fell or was reduced, that introduced death, unintentional death. Psychologically devastating to the civilization of Atlantis to suddenly have disease and death. And this was because of the invasion of consciousness. And bookmark my words, because we're going to do invasion of consciousness on level 2 when we talk about cancer. But the invasion of consciousness that created disease, created people's chakras going out of alignment, and created the possibility of unintentional death. So I was saying how in a monastery, these ancient monks meditate all day. They've meditated for decades. They've cultivated their consciousness for decades, all preparing for the moment of death, all right? Or for the moment of transition in order not to die conventional death, but instead to ascend. And that's like what the ancient mystery schools were like. People were given psychedelic initiations so they could experience hyperspace consciousness. People were cultivated during the day in their meditations and at night in their lucid dreaming. And all life daily practices were to add up towards the final moment of your coming out. Like in a fancy society, the ball, the debutante's ball. The idea that a young lady would be raised and cultivated and taught special manners, and then there would be her coming out ball, when you get to wear a tiara and a fancy gown and you are presented to society. This is what the ascension process is like. It is the coming out ball of each individual consciousness, and when we do it as a planet, of the planetary consciousness. It is like saying that the young person, because men also attend debutante balls, but they don't come out, but men also have to be cultivated, where you learn manners, where you learn how to dance, where you learn how to ask a lady out. This is what's necessary to attend the ball. And you and I are preparing to attend the cosmic ball. So we have to, first of all, learn our manners. We have to learn how to be unconditionally loving. That's a big one. We have to learn how to be nonviolent. We have to learn how to be accepting. We have to learn how to mitigate our own desires amidst the context of what we are submerged within. and we need to refine our egoic tendencies. The process of aligning your timeline with this central timeline is the process of refining your characteristics. And when you have successfully done this through self-cultivation, through meditation, through different esoteric practices, which I will get into very shortly, then you will be deemed worthy of entering into this next realm. At the cosmic ball, we don't let in a whole bunch of losers. We don't let in people that are angry, grief-stricken, violent, all of that negativity, fearful. All of those lower vibrational emotional states literally cannot exist at that new level. The electron that jumps up to the next shell, that shell is a very different world. So that is the realm of ascended masters. That is the realm of Agartha, or inner earth, or hidden earth. It is the realm of all of the beings who have come before you and I, who made this spiral journey and exited the wormhole. Before Atlantis, everybody did it. And it means that you become immortal. It means that you continue on your infinite journey. When I draw this line, this one that comes from the middle and goes all the way up, I draw the lazy 8 to show that that's infinity. What it means is there's an arrow going in that direction. That just continues infinitely. So when you go through this experience, you are refined to have the right manners, the right characteristics of consciousness to be able to go infinitely on your journey of consciousness in the universe, in the cosmos. So when you join the cosmic ball, that means that you have cultivated yourself to this point of unconditional love. You are loving enough and perfected enough to exist at that realm. And it's like being literally like a ball where the dancers move in patterns and you have to listen to the music and move according to that music. And the musical score and the composer and the performers are all divine. It is all higher consciousness, or the pattern of intelligence directing the energy as it is flowing. Now let's get into 1, 2, 3s and how-tos, because in the recorded lesson, Mike says, Groundhog's Day seemed to indicate that for a man, getting along with women helps the ascension process. This is true. What I would say is that in this time and place, Earth surface human culture, males have been saddled with or burdened with a lot of destructive mental programming. And that in order for males to ascend to higher levels, they have to get rid of a lot of these male-centered or patriarchal programs. And a lot of it has to do with not listening to one's emotions. Like males who are taught to be tough and tough it out and not be wimpy and not listen to your emotions. And part of wooing a woman, and in that movie, this male wooing this female, is becoming emotionally sensitive. He, in the movie, had to learn, how do I listen to someone? How do I ask them for what they want and then give them what they want as a way of wooing or, cultivating romantic interest? In order to achieve romantic interest, males have had to become more emotionally perceptive and sensitive in order to relate to females. And that's very much a part of the ascension process. I have a whole lesson that's all about sexuality and healthy sexuality and unhealthy sexuality. That's coming up next week, and that will actually answer a lot of questions about the mental mind state of why males approach the world in the way that they do and what needs to be healed in order for males to raise their vibration. Because, there's a human operating system that's installed in your mind, and the one that is installed in the male mind and for males is a little bit different than the one that is installed in the female mind. There's genetic differences and there's physical characteristic differences, and all of this changes the anthropomorphic experience. So we'll get into sex and sexuality, both healthy and unhealthy, next week. I want to talk about when I recorded the lessons, that are the recorded homework lessons. That was 2012/2013. What I was experiencing personally during that time as a small microcosmic fractal mirror or shard of what the planet was experiencing was I ate a lot more. It was very interesting. So ordinarily, because food is what is fueling our ascension. This is really important stuff to understand. Whatever budget, whatever amount of your life you budget for food, it is the most important aspect of your life, because what you are eating is light, and in order to ascend, you must accrete light. And so I already drank my smoothie, but usually I have some, a nice fruit juice or something like that is full of light. And in order to ascend, you must eat light and refine it upwards. When I drew the electron and the electron shell, here's an electron, here's a shell, here's another shell, the energy that the guy at this level is collecting to jump up to this level, or the security deposit to get into the next place, all comes from food. Food is essential for the individual ascension process. So you need to eat light. Literally, you need to ingest light. So I ingest light from my third eye by connecting directly to the sun, to the solar deity, and I do that every day. That's important. That's another important practice for ascension. Eating food that has enough light in it. So when I, in 2012 and 2013, started to raise my vibration to a much higher level, I found that I needed more calories. When I do a lot of these psychic activities that involve engaging my third eye, it requires a lot of extra calories. And I have spoken to you about how the body is meant to be a clean burning engine, eating nothing but pure sunlight. But in order to get up to that level, you have to run it like a steam engine, a combustion engine. Food goes in here and it gets burned and it makes heat and caloric energy. And so in 2012, 2013, I started eating a lot more and a lot more high quality peanut butter, coconut manna, things that are very nutrient dense, like nuts and fats and good stuff, and also a lot more protein. And although I'm not a fat or overweight or obese person, I gained weight. It was necessary for my ascension process to get more mass, because literally what ascension is transforming mass into energy. So when you get more mass in your body, so first of all, I ate a lot more protein, I ate a lot more calories, and I did a lot more weightlifting exercise. So I got more mass. But I didn't just get mass in my body in terms of fat or adipose tissue, I got muscles. And the important thing about muscles is that they contain mitochondria. Muscle fibers contain mitochondria, and mitochondria are energy factories. When I talk about saving up your energy at this quantum shell so that you can jump up to this quantum shell, part of the energy that you are saving up is energy in your mitochondria. Mitochondria are little tiny subcellular organelles. They're inside of all of your cells, and you can imagine them like the batteries that make everything go. You have little mitochondria that make everything go. And when you exercise, you put more energy into your mitochondria. And when you grow more muscles cells equals more mitochondria. So literally, it was necessary for me to become a more massive person. In this physical density, I needed more mass so that I could then raise the energy of that mass to a higher state. And I also liken the process to a pregnancy, because when a female becomes pregnant, there is a new life growing inside of her, and she has to ingest and consume extra calories in order to support that new life that is growing inside of her. And this is what each one of our ascension processes is like. This is why I say, do not begrudge yourself high quality organic food. I know it's expensive, whatever. Even to get peanut butter that is not genetically modified and that is organic, you'll pay $6 or $7 for a jar of peanut butter. That is essential. That's like, first of all, you're investing in yourself, and second of all, that organic peanut butter contains light. As opposed to the genetically modified peanut butter that was grown using Roundup, the herbicide, that not only contains a very small amount of light, but will actually make your chakras go from being in alignment to being out of alignment. All of this, the ascension process, is about cultivating yourself so that you are getting into alignment. You're getting into alignment with this main timeline. So eat more high quality food, get more light. Literally, sun gaze, There's one member of this class who tells me that she sun gazes with her eyes closed and that is the most comfortable thing for her. I totally recommend that. There's no danger to your physical eyes, and you will still get all of the benefit of that light entering into your body. Some of the other essential things to do is meditation, meaning spending time in inner silence, because verbalized conscious thought equals friction. And friction slows down the spinning of your chakras. It is the antithesis of saving money. If you want to save money, quote unquote, save your energy, consolidate or accrete light so that you can jump to the next quantum level, you need to spend time meditating. And during your day, to be mindful, watch your thoughts and don't verbalize excessively. So like an example would be if something negative happens or someone says something mean or nasty to you, you can spend a lot of time, many hours after the negative experience, having a conversation in your mind, shaking the finger of blame at that person, telling them that they're bad and wrong. You're bad and you're wrong and you smell bad. Like we all have that tendency to go over it. But the more that you do that, not only are you just spinning your gears, you're not saving your energy. And in order to make this leap from a lower vibrational state to a higher vibrational state, you have to cultivate your energy. If you can, practice lucid dreaming, because that is the same mechanism of during the day, cultivating your energy, being mindful, and having enough juice so that when you fall asleep, instead of crashing into unconsciousness, it is a slow descent into different states of consciousness where you then have experiences and then ascend out of those lower states of consciousness into the daily waking state, still remembering what you have experienced the night before. This is what we are going to do. We are going to ascend out of this dream. Right now, you're all submerged in a dream. It's a dream of the world in this third dimensional reality. Not a particularly good dream. I see Fukushima and a lot of environmental degradation and also a lot of social values that are nightmarish. People starve on the streets. People who have plenty of money literally step over people that are starving on the streets to, get to their multi-million-dollar townhouse every day. That is a nightmarish reality. And that is also not the dream that the planet wants to dream for herself. The planet does not intend to dream a dream that is a nightmarish reality where any inhabitant of the planet doesn't have enough food or is, totally destitute. Like, why? It's like if you were dreaming a dream of the cells of your body, would I dream for like some of these earlobe cells to not have enough blood flow and to turn black and die? No, I wouldn't. My dream to experience total health and vitality and energy going to every single cell that's on my body. So understand this. You are on the surface of the planet. You are a part of a planetary body. That person, Gaia, the planet that you live on, cares about you as a cell of her own body. Your personal ascension relates to Gaia's planetary ascension. Because if we used myself as an example, let's say I am ascending, because I am, because we all are, all of the physical structures of my body will ascend also. These will all increase in their vibration. My skin cells, my teeth cells, my eyeball cells will all begin, if they started at this level, will get higher and higher and higher and higher and higher until finally they're at that high level. But these are really good questions people have asked me. So someone else asked me, Aurora, will my gut bacteria ascend? This is really crucial because your gut bacteria, the probiotics that live in your small intestines and your colon and that are essential for your digestion, but they're not a part of you. They live symbiotically with you, but they're not a part of you. Same thing with the yeasts that colonize our skin. We have at least 90 different types of fungus that grow on our skin, and that is normal. That's the way it's supposed to be. Literally, there's 90 different types of fungus that grow on your big toe. Think about that when you're walking around barefoot, because you're leaving little fungus spores everywhere. And that's what is supposed to be. Those yeasts that live on your big toe are analogous to you or me that live on the surface of the planet. So the answer is, in order to be a part of the planetary ascension, you have to ascend also, or you also have to concomitantly raise your own vibration. If I have any cells or structures in my body that are not raising their vibration, they cannot stay in this body as it ascends. And this is the understanding of abnormal cells or cancer. And we'll get into that in the second aspect that will come up on level 2. And it's coming up in a few minutes. If you have any cancerous or abnormal cells in your body, those are cells that are going away from the divine potential. They are not in alignment with divinity. They're cells that are looking out for themselves. They're like, yo, I'm a cell. I'm looking out for number one. I don't care about you at all. They're like tough guy cells. They don't care about the overall organism. They only want what they want for themselves. And this is very similar to the idea of the billionaire on Earth's surface. Any billionaire who says, I want to take all of the money for me, and I want to have it all for me, and I don't care about the rest of you. I don't care about the totality, and I don't care about the planet that I live on, and if my desire to strip mine in order to earn billions of dollars is harming her, the planet. And I've just described the Koch brothers, K-O-C-H, spelled Koch, pronounced Coke. I don't know how they worked that one out, but these two guys are billionaires, and they are like cells of a body that are abnormal or cancerous. They are not working towards the overall health of the total body. They are working to get all of the money or cash that they want. And that is antithetical to planetary ascension. So this means that cells that are acting wrong can't be on board. They can't be along for the ride. Each one of us, as we are ascending, we are tuning our energetic structure away from distortion, away from perturbations in the field, and towards total health and vitality and divine connection. Connection to source, connection to higher consciousness, connection to the pattern of the universe. Health in our physical body is achieved when we as cellular organisms mirror the harmonics of the universe. That means our chakras are supposed to be nested according to these magical patterns, and our cells, our physical cells, are supposed to be nested or functioning or behaving and arranging themselves in these sacred patterns. And the cells of your body also have a chakra structure. And the cells of your body also create a tone, like a musical tone. And we need to be raising the tone of all of the cells of the body. So there are a couple of other practices to do. The electromagnetic fields that are produced by cell phones and Wi-Fi are very difficult to be around and are antithetical to ascension, but we need them for our technological processes. So if you can, minimize your exposure to them. Don't have your cell phone in your bedroom next to your bed. A lot of this is also about energetic hygiene, which I have lessons for last week. It is basically, you're trying to guard your energy and cultivate your energy so that you can eventually use it to ascend. And the process, let's also get into this. The process of ascension is a transition. It takes time, and it builds to a crescendo, just like physical gestation, and then there is a birth. So the analogy is we as Earth's surface humans have been experiencing the gestation process for about the past 10 or 14 years. This new consciousness has been gestating. Like a baby in the womb, it has been growing to its full potential, and it has not yet been born. So 2012, this is the gestation process. This is this consciousness growing and growing and growing. There will be an actual day or an actual moment that will be the moment of ascension, which is analogous to birth. And what happens in physical birth? The baby that has been gestating has achieved all of the capacities and organs that it needs to live independently of the mother, and it exits the mother. But the baby doesn't die, and the mother doesn't die, and the mother still continues to perform the same role that she performed for the baby, which is to care for and protect and nourish and nurture. So this is about you and me and planet Earth, because we are going to be exiting this level of reality out of the process of gestation into the process of birth. It doesn't mean we'll die. It doesn't mean our mommy will disappear. It means we will have a different experience.